broadcasting live from our ZTN studios in Harare, Zimbabwe. Welcome to this special program brought to you by Zimbabwe's television network in partnership with the Women's Coalition of Zimbabwe. If you have any views or comments on today's show, do not hesitate to contact us via our Facebook page, Zimbabwe's TV network, or via our Twitter handle, ZTM Prime. I'm Samantha Rusare. Now, in Zimbabwe, about 1 in 3 women aged 15 to 49 have experienced physical violence, and about 1 in 4 women have experienced sexual violence since the age of 15, and this is according to the 2015 Zimbabwe Demographic and Health Survey. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 lockdown in 2020, Zimbabwe experienced a 60% increase in reported cases of GBV, with some national hotlines receiving more than 4,000 GBV-related calls during the first national lockdown in 2020. Now, to discuss where we're at with these statistics and how we're fighting GBV in Zimbabwe and currently doing awareness raising on ending violence against women and girls in Zimbabwe, I am joined in studio by my guests. I have from Padare, Paul Vingi. Thank you very much for coming through. I also have Maslin Gaipiko from WILSA. Again, thank you very much, Maslin, for coming to discuss these important issues with us. And we also have from the Zimbabwe Gender Commission, Commissioner Sibongile Mauye. Thank you very much for coming through. So we're going to dive into our discussion. It's going to be a very long, lengthy one, but I'm sure there are so many valued points that we're also going to get from this discussion. Now, I'm going to start with maybe if you can tell us more about where you're coming from and the organizations you're coming from. Commissioner, what does the Zimbabwe Gender Commission do, and what is it all about? What is its mandate in Zimbabwe?
Okay, thank you very much, Samantha. The Zimbabwe Gender Commission is one of the independent commissions that are established in terms of the 2013 Constitution, and we find our mandate from Section 246 of the Constitution. And basically what we are looking at is monitoring gender equality and also providing a space for people to actually complain. So we have a complaints handling facility, and also we do research in terms of what is happening to gender equality. And let me just say that we are also looking at men and women. When we are talking about gender, we are talking about men, we are talking about women, we are talking about girls, and we are also talking about boys. So basically our mandate is to protect and to ensure that gender equality as provided for in the Constitution is actually adhered to.
Very important issue there, the points that she's raised. You see, when you go out there, I once went, I think, in some rural areas in Nyanga, and when you ask people, and you ask men especially, what is gender? For them, they don't understand that they are also included when we're talking about issues to do with gender. I'm coming to you, WILSA. Maslin Gaipiko, tell us more about WILSA and what is your mandate as an organization?
Okay, so Women in Law in Southern Africa is actually a sub-Saharan regional organization which works to eradicate all forms of violence against girls and women in Zimbabwe and in SADC as well. But today I'm stepping in the shoes of WICOZ, which is Women Coalition of Zimbabwe, which is an amalgamation of women and women's organizations. We are coming together to come up with their views and also to come up with solutions that can help them to end violence against women and girls. So today I'm wearing 2 hats.
I'm sure you're going to be giving us a lot about what you see in the field as well, and what you see in remote areas as well. That is very different from what we sometimes experience in the urban areas. Now, coming to you, the only gentleman in the room, Padare Shasta Paul Vingi. Tell us more about Padare. What is Padare all about?
Thank you very much. Good morning. Padare is a movement of men and boys where basically we just engaging men around issues to do with gender. I think, as you've just alluded to, in most cases when you hear the word gender, a majority, especially of men, they refer to it as a women's issue. So our mandate really is just to get to sit down with men and boys, get them to understand what gender is, and at the same time just be able to unpick it, and so that when we are then talking of gender-based violence, they also then get to know what is required of them. And then at the same time, we are also then the movement is also it also envisions a society where men are gender sensitive, a society where there isn't any discrimination in terms of gender. And in our conversations, we also just get to make it clear to men that we did not get to raise our hands and choose before we were born to say, let me be born a man, and then God says, okay, you can be a man. We were born a man, and apparently, or unfortunately, or fortunately, there's also then privileges that comes with that. So our discussions are also centered around how do we get to use those privileges so that the other gender is not discriminated, the other gender is not looked down upon. And probably lastly, let me just clarify to also say, Padare is not a men's rights organization. Oh. I've gotten to certain platforms, including the media as well, where when they hear Padare, they say, at least now men are being represented. We are tired of this, women's movement and women's organizations. So let me also just highlight to say we are not a men's rights organization, but rather we are a human rights organization where we believe that, human rights should be promoted and they should be protected. But however, our niche is around getting men onto the table, getting men onto the discourse. In other words, we're actually complementing what the women's movement has been doing. Thank you.
It is a man's world, but it's nothing without a woman in it. Sure. I like that. With respect to Padare, I'm going to go back to you. What are some of the root causes of violence against women and girls in Zimbabwe? You work with the men. What do you see as some of those root causes that cause those men to commit such violent crimes to women?
Yeah, I think from the experience that we've had with working with men and also the conversations that we get to have, one of the primary root causes of violence against women is the status between men and women, where men are at a certain level and women are at a higher level and women are at a lower level. You would realize that majority of women depend on men, and then the society also just make it they embrace that when you're a woman, you have to depend on a man. So that's one of the root causes. That on its own, that power relation, that status between men and women, that on its own comes with violence. And then the other issue also is also around issues to do with possession. Not only do they depend on men, but also in most cases our society and our communities, they get to have men getting to have women as their possession. It's part of me. I've married, I've paid lobola. So if I look at my garage and I'm seeing 2 cars, and then also the woman that I've paid for 8,000-10,000, so it's the same. So I've paid lobola. So with the conversations from men, basically those are some of the main two aspects in terms of the violence that then comes with it. Because the moment then you depend on me, and the moment then you become my possession, then it means that there's that an equal power relation, and in some cases, not all cases, in some cases, then we end up then getting to abuse that system where women then just get to depend on men, and at the end of the day, no one listens to them, and whatever their issues is not a priority, because I'm the head of the house, I'm the one who gets to lead any conversations that happens in this house. So you then realize that because of that, violence against women, then it continues. And so let me also highlight to say, all these, so that I leave for my colleagues as well. They are deep-rooted in terms of, culture, yeah. And then also the religion doesn't spare it as well.
I was actually going to then ask when he said, if he says I paid lobola for her, I was going to follow up and say, so do you think culture and religion have anything to do with it?
Definitely, culture and religion, you can't rule it out. We have certain elements of the culture that we hold on to so much, and from the experience of also working with men, when you say play the card of culture, and then if you're stuck somewhere, you then also switch to religion to say, so you find ways of, you use those two as a tool to actually reinforce and at the same time, abuse in the name of culture and religion. And in most cases also, when that is said, then the woman is disempowered. You're told now, even you're told to submit. So submit, and submit ends there. And for most men, unfortunately, the Bible starts there and ends there.
Yeah.
You submit. So they don't even want to go further in most
Means,
cases
yeah.
because actually, if you want to get to read that chapter on its own, or that verse, it comes back to men as well, but we don't want to go there.
Yeah,
We
they
don't
don't
want to go there.
back there. Maslin, do you agree with what Paul says, or there are different maybe dimensions to it when it comes to the women that you work with?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to also compliment what he was saying as well, to say culture and religion, they also contribute towards gender-based violence in our communities, because already the patriarchal society that we live in, we've born and bred in this society, in this culture, and there are things that have been designed to say men can do these things and women cannot do these things. So actually there are sometimes when a woman wants to do something, but already there are labels that are there and all those things. For an example, you say, I want to venture into politics, and there are those clauses which are said by people to say, politics, maure, and all those things. So on its own already is gender-based violence as well, but it's also emanating from the issue of patriarchal society, where the culture, the society already is defined to say, this is what men are supposed to do, this is what women are supposed to do, and this is the way that they are supposed to behave as well. And also I'd like to attribute GBV to also issues to do with drug abuse nowadays. When you go out the communities, when you go to the courts, and women are actually applying for protection orders and all that, when you ask them about the violence that they are facing, they really attribute it to things like Guka, Dombo, Mutoriro, and all those things. They say, my husband takes drugs, and whenever he's drunk, that's when he comes home and physically and verbally abuses me, and all those things. So drug abuse as well has led to gender-based violence. And also there are issues right now about COVID-19 also is playing a big role in terms of gender-based violence, because there were successive lockdowns and some streams of income have been closed and all this, and the married people, the couples, they had a long time to stay together. And I don't know what happens. You marry for love, you love each other, but you can't spend most of the time together. Then there's a violence which is erupting and all those things. So COVID-19 as well has contributed to GBV, especially in a marriage setup or in relationship where we call in cause my love affairs and all that. Yes.
Oh, as we look at the Gender Commission from a research point of view, do you think COVID-19, the issues that were happening in COVID-19 are still happening? And maybe if we could look at statistics. I think earlier on off camera we spoke of statistics, that the statistics that we have are before COVID-19. Are there any new statistics that are there after and post COVID-19 in relation to GBV cases and calls from women in communities? And again, to you, maybe if you can answer the same question, maybe you'll see it with a different lens. What are some of those root causes that are causing? Because I think 2 years we kept saying, COVID-19, COVID-19, but maybe there are some new cases as well.
Okay, thank you so much. The statistics that are available now are the 2019 multi-cluster survey. And from that report, it shows that 39.4% of women and girls in the ages of 15 to 49 experienced physical violence. And also, we saw that 32.6% of girls below 18 got married. So it shows that there's been an increase. But let me put a rider. When we talk about statistics in gender-based violence, we really need to be cautious, because these statistics are not, it's difficult to collect accurate statistics concerning gender-based violence because of the various forms that gender-based violence comes through. So perhaps let me also just say, when we are talking about gender-based violence, it is taking place in different spaces. It is taking place within the home. It is taking place within the school. And sometimes, within the school, like even in toilets. It is also taking place within the public transport system, within the markets, in universities, colleges. So in political spaces. So gender-based violence is very evasive. It's like everywhere where people are, you find it. It also comes in the workplace in the form of sexual harassment. So it is very perverse. It is found in all these spaces. Now, coming back to the issue of causes, I think my colleagues did mention the issue of the power relations between men and women. I think that is very key. But also, I think that sometimes it also has to do with the way society condones and naturalizes gender-based violence.
Yeah,
If within the home, a man is abusing their wife, usually the family will say, it's okay, you know, you talk, you know, and things like that. So there's a naturalization that takes place within the home setting. So once that has happened within the home, even in other spaces, people really don't raise their heads when within a school setting, there are some children who are bullying others and, you know, having, you know, sexual jokes and sometimes, you know, all those kind of things. That's violence. And we are socializing the children to be violent in future. Also in universities, you find that boys bully girls. So it's the society that sometimes condones that, the way people accept and naturalize violence. So those are some of the things that we need really to address. But having said that, we also look at the issue of economic dependency that he was talking about. That you find most cases, women and girls, they depend on men. That's where you find also even date violence. You know, people are dating and this guy is beating up his girlfriend because the girl perhaps she's asking for some resources, or, you know, and sometimes there is also competition with other boys, you know, things like that, and then there's fighting. So that economic dependence and poverty, because mostly women and girls, their incomes are low and their opportunities are also low. And then perhaps finally, let me talk about the issue of enforcement of the law. I think that too contributes, because it's like, okay, if I beat my husband, first of all, he might not report because society sees that the man is the one that, you know, that should be stronger. So he will not even go to report. Then there's underreporting. And when those people report, others who manage to report, the legal system itself, it's such a, the whole process is so cumbersome. And it's very difficult, and sometimes, you know, people go to the court and then it's postponed and it's very, very tough. So I think this also perpetuates, because if someone is accountable, if somebody has an issue, a domestic violence case, and they are prosecuted, and people actually find that actually it's not, you know, you cannot just do it, you know, just like that. The law will catch up with you. But if the legal system, the whole process is, you know, it's not very, very friendly for women. So I think those are some of the causes in terms of gender-based violence.
Maybe just also add, you know, she just poked my mind when she then, you know, she was talking about men being strong. And then you realize that, you know, over the years, masculinity, as in what does it mean for you to be a man, has been exaggerated, you know, to certain traits. Like, for example, you know, when you're a man, a real man, you're supposed to be aggressive. You're supposed to be insensitive. You're not supposed to show any emotions. And this aggressive goes to, you know, almost anything and everything. You're supposed to be strong. So because of those, you know, traits that we have put on what a man is supposed to be, when then a man demonstrates that, you know, to say, let me show you that I'm the man, I'm the strong one, I have to be aggressive. Otherwise, if I'm not aggressive, you know, then I'm not a man. You know, so many times you've heard people say, ukatadza kuti wamudzimai pakadaiso apa kana mosquito auchauraya. You know, so you're pushed to say you're not a man if you're not doing A, B, C, D. You know what I mean? So also that also then, you know, becomes a fuel to violence against women, because then this man is being celebrated, like what you are saying. The community has accepted it from boy child. Even Karumumba cannot bully the sister, cannot bully the house helper, you know, and you live it. And yet,
Muregerere
ndibaba. You know what I mean? You're celebrating violence in that sense. And then kamanakanya kanakazokura kamaiti karegere ndibaba kachituka auntie, kachituka the sister. When then is now out there, is simply just showing what is used to, what the community has also celebrated. It then becomes a problem.
But then, you know, there's so many empowered women. I think even when we look at statistics, I think this generation has so many empowered women. Maslin, which groups of women within our generations and generations that are older are more vulnerable to violence? You know, women are not a homogeneous group. There are different women within the group of women that, you know, just a body of women. Which women are the ones who are more vulnerable to violence and gender-based violence?
Oh, okay, so according to our work and the interaction that we have with women, we've come to a realization that women and girls between the age of 15 and 35, they're the ones who really face gender-based violence, because even when we go for help desk, we go the communities and all that, because we also do mobile legal aid clinics as well. So most of the women that report cases of violence against them are the women or the girls between the age of 15 and 25. It is the girls who are below the age of 18, from 15 years, maybe up to 17, who are being forced to get married because maybe of religion or because of culture. Some of them are actually just before the new law and the new BTKs about eradication of child marriages and all that, whereby you have this discrepancy between the age of consent and the age of marriage, whereby a person who's 17 can indulge into sex because the age of consent was at 16. And the verdict for that case was just Section 7 of the Criminal Law Code. You go to court. Once there is consent, then it's not rape, right? So usually it's having sexual intercourse with a young person, and the sentence that you'd get is just community service. And most of the time, the girls are getting married before the age of 18, because when there's consent, then that's it. No one goes to jail. And as Africans, as Zimbabweans, we believe that a child cannot indulge in sex but not get married. What if you get pregnant? Who's going to take care of that and all that? But from a legal perspective, that's gender-based violence, because a child is not supposed to get married before the age of 18. And as well, it is the women who are still in marriages, who are below or at the age of 35, who are facing violence in their marriages. It is the girls who are between the age of 15, maybe up to 35, who are in relationships. That's like what Commissioner have been saying, that maybe when you have received some gifts and all that, then there's a clash, you know, competition of boys and all that, only because you've received his gifts. So he thinks that he has this right to beat you up and all that. Still violence against women. So really, according to the work and the interaction that you have with girls and women as WICOs and as WILSA, we see that the ladies between the age of 15 and 35, they're the most vulnerable to GBV in Zimbabwe.
All right. We're going to take a short break, Maslin, and we will continue as we are talking about awareness raising on ending violence against women and girls in Zimbabwe. Don't go anywhere.
Wake up, sit up, and get ready to feel the rush of everyday break on Morning Rush. 6 a.m. weekdays on ZTN Prime. Get the latest news, what's trending on the streets and on social media, quick explore of some sporting buzz, weather report, traffic updates, and of course, a hot cup of entertainment and some fun. Now, that's how you start your day. Each day, every day, with a rush, only on Morning Rush.
All right, so we're back. We are here for a special program brought to you by Women's Coalition of Zimbabwe. We are talking about awareness raising of violence against women and girls in Zimbabwe. I have in studio with me Padare Trust, WILSA, as well as the Gender Commission. And before the break, Maslin was just talking about the different groups of women. I think she spoke about an age group 15 to 35 for women who are more vulnerable to violence against women and girls. Commissioner, do you agree, or maybe you have other sentiments within that point?
Yeah, I do agree. The age group that she has mentioned, I think, is vulnerable. But also, I think we also need to look at the disabled, yes. Those with different disabilities. Those who are not, I would say, those who are dumb, who can talk, who can speak, and those who do not hear, and also those who cannot see. We have had situations where these people are violated within the home setting. They're actually abused. But because they cannot speak, it goes unnoticed. And then until there's a pregnancy sometimes, or until there's a sickness. So those groups are really vulnerable. And we, as a commission, we have been doing this, this exercise under the Spotlight Initiative, where we've been going around the country looking at issues of child marriages. And we discovered that there are lots of children with disabilities who are being abused, but they are not able even to put those issues in the public domain. So that is one group which really needs help. So yeah, that's
it really
one group.
doesn't. Is there any awareness that's happening, particularly looking at women and girls with disabilities? Is there any awareness, or how are some of maybe the organizations that are here? How are you assisting? Maybe Maslin or Paul, maybe you can also chip in. What is being done or can be done to assist these young women with disabilities that don't have a voice of their own?
Okay. Perhaps I will just say one point. I think one of the things is actually making, for example, sign language available. As we speak right now, we are already excluding some people. Perhaps there is sign language, I'm not sure. But we are already excluding some people. So I think our programs also need to be inclusive and to be aware that people are differently abled. So that is one issue, I think, even from the Act, the Disability Act. Everyone is mandated, not only the organizations, but the organizations that deal with people with different levels and types of disability. But everyone should be aware that how are we reaching out to those who have different disabilities.
Anyone else chip in?
Yeah, Tron, you start?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So as well, we actually also go, when we do our food events, we also go to the communities where we do some GBV sensitization to communities in general. And when we go to the communities, it's not exclusive of people living with disability, but beside that, we also have meetings which are specifically for people living with disabilities, so that we get to have people who can, their aides also, they're welcome to come with them, and to always make sure that we go to a venue where there's facilities that are there, they can cater for them. We also make sure that there is sign language. So usually we go to institutions which houses people with disability, so that we can get an interpreter, we can get a person with sign language, we have the facilities and all that. So we have dialogues with people living with disabilities with the aid of sign language, with the aid of the facilities that are specifically meant for them as well. So that's one of the things that you are doing as well.
Well, she's also almost mentioned
Most
all of it, but maybe just to add, to say, in addition to what she has said, which basically we're doing around the same, engaging in the same way, we're engaging communities and also trying to engage the vulnerables on their own, so that they're able to understand that this is actually violence and all those kind of things. We also get to make an effort to engage those that, the community and even the family, to be able to pick signs of abuse.
Oh,
we
yes.
actually get to have those conversations to say, you need to pick signs of abuse. When someone is withdrawing, when you see a change, don't just say, it's probably she's just being moody or whatever it is. You need to be able to pick signs of abuse, so that that there are red flags. There are quite a number of red flags that you can actually get to see, when if you're observant, when you're with someone who's vulnerable, you can actually pick to say this should be something. So we actually get to make an effort with communities and families to actually then say, let's be able to actually be able to observe signs of abuse. And then also maybe lastly, just to add on to the last discussion around the vulnerable women. We have had an assumption for a long time that empowered women do not get to face violence. I'll speak from men's perspective. Men are struggling to deal with empowered women.
Sure.
They are struggling to deal with empowered women,
Tell
and
us
they are not. that they're not spared from violence. It's just I'm not saying they're vulnerable per se, but they are not spared from violence. The assumption is once a woman is empowered, once a girl is empowered, then everything is fine. But because in her circles, men are always there, and these men are not empowered to deal with empowered women.
Yes.
It will be difficult for me to get home where I have the breadwinner tag, I have the father of the house tag, and then I can't afford to pay rent. And then there is an empowered woman who's bringing in the salary. She can pay rent, she can whatever. That on its own, without her saying anything, I'll struggle.
Yeah.
And I'll find ways of just fighting that. To say we have not been able to also accept it as men, to say, okay, fine, women are empowered. So it's also one area that there's a huge gap where, one is empowered and one is not engaged to relate to an empowered girlfriend. How do you relate to your girlfriend when she's empowered, when she doesn't need money for movie, when she doesn't need money for hairstyle, when she drives her own car, when she can feel? How do you relate to that kind of a girlfriend? It then becomes a huge problem.
It surely, because I hadn't looked at it that way. Still on that point, what are you as Padare Trust doing with younger boys? And, because I feel, unfortunately, for the older generations, they had been socialized as they were growing up. You're the man, you're supposed to be this, and they were not empowered to understand what an empowered woman and who an empowered woman is and how to handle an empowered woman. But what are you doing with the younger generations as Padare?
Yeah, to be honest, the problem is still there. It's not only in the older generation, even the young generation, they are struggling to deal with these issues. And what we've tried to do really is try to reach out to the boys, from the boys in high school, and we also have structures in tertiary institutions, where we literally just try to engage these lads to say, guys, we are born, the only thing that makes us different is probably, our genitalia and nothing else. And let's the earlier or the sooner we begin to accept that this is the way it is, the free we are going to become. The more we're going to be free from getting into prison, the more we're going to be free from stress, the more we're going to be free. We're talking about men and depression and suicide and all those kind of things. One of those things is because they're failing to manage the status quo now. To say, so we try by all means to engage boys to say, look, it's fine to be to not to make it. It's fine to be weak. If you want to cry, it's okay to cry. Let cry it out. So we try really to get a whole broader gender discussions around, what is it that we've been carrying from way back, and we don't know who created that, and we are just getting it. But look at where it has gotten us. Globally, men commit suicide more than 3 to 4 times more than women. And that's a fact. And why? It's because of some of these things that we're just hanging on and we're just pulling and say, I'm a man. So really our conversations are also then to demystify some of these so-called, we're not saying culture is wrong, we're not saying religion is wrong, but there's some elements in it that we just need to pluck out and throw away. So our conversations are continuous, but there's a lot of engagement so that they begin to accept, to say it's okay to vote for a woman at SRC at UZ. There's nothing wrong with that. Give them the opportunity to whatever. And actually, you're not giving them the opportunity. It's their right to get into those spaces. So, because one of the things that we've seen also as men is to say, the language that we used to say we need to do women a favor. Wow. That's another one. Because then I'll get to a point where, Commissioner, you are there because of me.
Oh, wow.
We did a favor so that we get to have you as a commissioner to put you where you are. So the moment you're also relating at that stage, it means that those power relations continue to what? So we also then, getting back to the young boys especially, we need to understand that we're not doing them a favor. It's their right for them to be there. Let's just make sure that the space, the environment is clear and safe for them to also just play equally in the space.
Perhaps let me just put a small idea there that it's the way we are socializing our children.
Yes.
Before they are socialized by Padare, they are in my home.
Yeah.
So it's us, the parents, who need to socialize our children differently so that they are able to accept that any role, for example, even the roles within the home, it's okay to actually do domestic work. It's actually okay to do your own bed, to clean your own room, and also even to cook for everyone in the home. It's not just for your sister. So I think we need, as society, to start our socialization right there from the home so that it's acceptable. I've seen guys in universities actually doing semester marriages they marry their girlfriend, or they stay together. Rather, it's not marriage. It's, they stay together or they live together because he wants the girl to do his laundry. And he wants the girl to cook for him while they are all university students. And it is because they are used at home to have all this done by their sisters or the house help. So I think it's the socialization process which we continue to feed these children. So we are encouraging as parents to do something different so that we can actually fight some of these deep-rooted attitudes.
Yeah, it's not just us as parents having to say, oh, there is Padare, they're going to handle him at school. Or Wilsa is going to come and tell them about the laws and he'll be fine. But we need to take ownership of our children. Paul, you spoke of participation in socio-economic and political spaces earlier on. How does the violence against women and girls affect women's participation? Maslin, I'll give that one to you. Maybe you can start. How is that affecting women's participation?
Okay, it's all right. You know, the violence that happens, especially, you know, in political parties, I'll have to say this, the sexual harassment that happens, you don't climb up the ladder if you are not connected to someone, maybe sexually or because you're related to one another. So that one is also a hindrance also for women to actually contribute to politics and all other things. I also want to talk about issues that has been already spoken about in terms of the workplace spaces as well as in tertiary institutions, colleges, and all that, whereby there's sexual harassment, sex in exchange for marks, and all those things that happens. So already there is power imbalance that happens between the lecturer and the female student. And once you say that I don't want to indulge into sex with you, then it means that you are not going to pass that module. If you don't pass that module, then sometimes you are timed out. But the time that you are timed out only because you couldn't consent to your sex, which is usually forced sex and all that, you cannot complete your degree. When you cannot complete your degree, then it means that you have lost also the opportunity that you were supposed to get and all those things. So that also is actually contributing to less and less women being able to participate at national level in politics, maybe in higher posts, in jobs and all those things. It just happens in all the spheres of life, in this institution that you go to and all those things.
And Commissioner, maybe you can add that. I think, I'm not saying give us your personal experiences, but I'm sure to get to where you're at, you had some challenges with regards, people looking down at you, maybe because of your gender in your past life as you got up the ladder. Did you have any of those challenges and how did you overcome?
Okay, thank you for that question. Well, when I finished A-level, I did not want to go to university, so I actually wanted to go for work. So I got a job, and within that job, there was so much discrimination against women. And our manager then was a white man, because, well, I went to university in the 80s. So he was discriminating, openly. So I was so disgusted. I left that job, and then I went to university. So when I went to university, the space, I think, was a bit more, I think it was a bit more equal, because like in our class, there was really not bullying on the basis of gender. So after university, after my first degree, I did then my master's in the space that I was in. I actually did my master's in England, and the space was very, very open, and I did not experience any discrimination really. But I have seen in my interactions, in my work interactions, that the issues of violence affect women in many spaces. And here we're not talking about just the urban women, we're also talking about the rural women. Right out there, you find that the issues of culture really affect women in terms of getting into certain spaces. There's labeling that happens. If a woman wants to go into a political space, there's a lot of labeling. Say those kind of things. So that happens. And sometimes there's also threat of violence. Perhaps not just not violence itself, but just the threat. Ukaenda ikoko, unozodai ugozodai. So women vangotyira kure kuti zvataurwa zviya ndingazviite here. Saka there's threat of violence, and sometimes there's actual violence. We have seen situations where women have been molested, physically molested in the political competition. So that then affects their participation. And we have also seen women being molested on social media, hate speech, and all sorts of things. And sometimes, pictures being sent, and sometimes it would be, inaccurate. So all those kind of things, then they cause women not to be interested. Yeah. And I've seen a particular group of women, especially the professional women, they'll say, I don't want to have to do with this, because there's so much smearing that takes place. Then also the issue of, I'm passionate about girls at college. And girls in schools, because that is the future leaders.
Yeah, those are the formative ages. Yeah.
Exactly. So those also they experience a lot of bullying. A lot of bullying, and I would like us to really focus our programs a lot on the schools, and also the colleges, because this is where we get our future leaders. Yes. So yeah, that's what I
I'm
can
sure
say for now.
The confidence is built.
Yeah. It's unfortunate and it's sad. Just alluding to what my colleagues here are also saying, not having women in the positions of decision making, be it in politics, be it in society, will actually derail some of the progress that we are trying to make, because then there's no representation. You don't find them at where it matters most. You don't get to find them where decisions are made. So who is going to be making decisions for them? So and also getting back to us as men, we're struggling to to accommodate that, to say, okay, fine, let's create a conducive environment where they can also participate equally. We come up with terms like politics is dirty. Yeah. And I always tell my fellow male politicians to say, if it's dirty, what are you doing there?
Exactly. They were saying I can handle it better.
Yeah. So there's also a lot of intimidation.
Yeah.
So how then do you get to have a woman or a young girl who is seeing a woman who's being molested and nothing happens on TV, a woman who's being attacked on social media and nothing is happening. So because of that also, they then withdraw. We are then missing out on big minds in terms of getting to be progressive. And getting back to the family setup, how many of us in the family are celebrating when a grade 5 or grade 6-year-old girl has been made a class monitress or a prefect? Yeah. Let's celebrate that. Let's normalize that, to say it's okay to be a leader. You can actually be a leader. Yeah. Just as early as that, let's be able to celebrate and accommodate and to say, okay, fine, she's because you realize at school, I'm sure every class has a class monitress. There are girls who are prefects, but as you go on, that leadership drops.
It does.
It does. So there's a gap in between, that we really need to look at it and say, like what Commissioner was saying, starting from the family, how do we embrace and celebrate those young girls? How do you also accommodate, make sure that these boys are also celebrating together to say, no, this is us and we're together and we're moving forward. Not like someone is ahead and we're behind and all that kind of stuff.
Padare, are you also working with some women rights groups as well in your awareness programs in schools?
Oh yeah.
Do you collaborate and
because
that must be exciting. I'm
only
sure you get a lot from that.
not only in schools, throughout our programming, we have I think we've gotten to a point where we have realized that together we can actually get to amplify each other's voices and work together like that. So this is not the first time that we are sitting on a platform together like this. We do this at schools, we do this in the communities, we do this in parliament, we do this all over, because we believe that the agenda that we have will make women better people, will also make men better people. You know, which is one backlash that we always get to say, no, you are trying to make this whole world feminine. You are trying to make men, weak. You know, how can you be, the men that you're trying to create nowadays is a weak man. This is why suicides are coming. But if we engage and really look at the reasons why we are here, it's because of this, societal differences that we have, and we all actually get to have put more pressure on men to be able to deal with these things. And if it's not talked about, if it is not discussed at this level, then it becomes a huge challenge. So yeah, we are actually part of the Women's Coalition.
Okay, that's amazing. It's good to know that there's so much work being done on the ground. I think there's just so much more as well that needs to be done. After the break, we're going to be taking a look at the laws that are protecting women. Don't go anywhere.
It is a real puzzle how crystal meth has made its way into communities and continues to ravage the youth. This is where it all begins. Is enough focus being put on mental health?
Thank you very much for joining us. You are on ZTN Prime, where we are talking about awareness against violence against women and girls. And in studio, I have with me some panelists who have been talking at length at what they're doing in their different organizations to bring awareness to Zimbabwe that, violence against women and girls is wrong. Now, Maslin, let's talk about the laws that are there that are protecting women against violence. How effective are they in protecting the women? Let's talk about the laws and then how effective they are.
Okay, so we have the Domestic Violence Act, which speaks really about domestic violence and all those things, as well as providing for remedies when a person is facing domestic violence. So a person can go and report the police and make a criminal charge against the partner, and it's usually a partner sometimes, because we are talking about a household whereby there's a couple which has been married. So relationship also is very important when it comes to the application of the Domestic Violence Act. So maybe the remedies for GBV in a domestic setup, we have some peace orders, we have some protection orders, whereby if a spouse is violating the other spouse, they can go and apply for a protection order. They can go to a nearest civil court. They are given the forms they can fill in. We also have some help desks at some courts. So what you can just do is, when you get your forms, you can proceed the help desk, where there are a lot of organizations. WOSA is there, there's JCT. We also have organizations like LRF. They're there to help you to apply for the protection orders and the peace orders as well. Then also have the criminal code. The criminal code really speaks about SGBV when as a sexual violent type of a nature, and it goes to spill into rape as well. So with rape cases, you can just go and report the police. You have access to PEP and all those kind of things they're provided for. Then the Section 70 kind of relationships that are sex with a minor and all that, those are criminal charges. You can just go to the police and report. Then also we have the recently enacted Marriage Act, whereby we are talking about the amalgamation of all the other laws, all the marriages laws in Zimbabwe, and it speaks to 18 as the age of marriage, which we are hoping and saying that is going to curb the number of child marriages, whether they've been perpetrated because of culture or because of religion. We know that has been passed. The president has assented to it, but are still waiting for the effective date to say when is the law going to be effective. So the law also speaks about not only a perpetrator of child marriage, a person who's going to get married to a person who's below the age of 18 who's going to be found guilty. It is also talking about all the people who are going to participate in a child marriage. So what I was saying is, atumwa kunoita munyai pamba paitirwa mabiko achona vatete vaperekedza zvese you are all guilty of child marriage. So we are hoping and thinking kuti this is going to be a very progressive kind of law. But in terms of effectiveness, I think the issue now goes really back to enforcement, to say that with all criminal charges, we have the first port of call is the police. When the police stations are not accessible to the public, or they're accessible but the services are poor sometimes, then that's when we are going to find a challenge. But maybe to the whole of Zimbabwe who are listening to us right now, when it comes to issues that affects the family and issues that you think they're confidential, especially when it comes to SGBV, which is sexual gender-based violence, please don't go and report at that counter. Go straight to VFU. Whether the police officer at the counter is going to say what's your matter and all those things, just say I want to go to VFU. It is a special department of the police specifically trained for those issues. They are not going all to like Kuseka and all that, because when you go, especially for men, it's a challenge. When you go up a counter paper go police and you say I need to go on cards and all that, I don't think you would go there, because sometimes they're not trained, they're different departments of the police. But when you go to VFU, they're trained for that, so you can just go there. And also it's also important to know that the referral pathway when it comes to GBV also is very important, which means that when you go to the police, the VFU, they know, just like what my colleague has been saying, that it's not the first time that you are sitting at this panel so that we can discuss these issues. Outside there, we also have relationships, right, where Padare can say this matter, I think we cannot handle it, they can refer to Bosa and you can do the same. And we believe that once a matter is known or has been reported to various organizations, then it's very easy to get your remedy. Let's take for an example, a person has facing some challenges in trying to prosecute a matter and all that, we can go to Zimbabwe Gender Commission, we can go to ZAC as well, so that we can get help and that person can get help. When we get a client as well, we refer them to VFU, we follow up on that, and we make sure that the case comes to completion. So it's not one organization really who can do a case up to completion. We work with Ministry of Women Affairs, Padare, the GC, we do ZAC as well, and other organizations. We are just one fighting one common causing ground.
Now, in all that you're doing, all the work, we must commend you for the work that you're doing. And how effective is it to the beneficiaries? Do they know that these laws are in place? And what are some of the ways, what are some of the awareness programs maybe are you doing in the communities, especially the remote ones that don't have access to media, to know that there's now a new marriage act that protects against this and this? What are you doing as an organization to ensure that your beneficiaries and the beneficiaries of these laws know what's going on and know that they have this protection for them?
So we have a lot of our activities that we do where we go to grassroots communities. We have gender-based violence sensitization meetings and workshops in deep rural areas. Like for Bosa, we operate in Harare, we operate in Urungwe, Mbire, Marondera, Murewa, also in Manicaland and all the other spaces in Zimbabwe. So we go there and have gender-based violence sensitization. We also have community dialogues where we get to sit down with the communities and discuss about these issues. And when we discuss about the issues, it's not rules there. We also make sure that other stakeholders which are involved in the referral pathways, they are there as well. So when we teach them, we tell them about the law and all that. VFU as well has a time to speak the community and build the confidence in them to say, when we face this type of challenge and all that, you can come. We also do the dialogues with PWDs, just like what I've alluded to as well. During these sessions as well, we do what we call mobile legal aid clinics, because sometimes like the courts are very far. Our head office is in Harare, but a person is in Chivu, and sometimes when we go to the communities in Chivu, after our activities, we say all those with legal issues that they want to be addressed and all that, we can have a one-on-one consultation with clients. We take instructions. Then if there's need to refer them, if there's need to take the matter to our offices so that we can help them. And our services are free of charge as well. So we do the drafting of the papers free of charge. We do consultation free of charge, legal representation when it's needed. We do it free of charge. What they can actually pay for is only the administration cost, which is associated with issuing maybe summons on the papers at the High Court or the civil courts and all that. So those are some of the things that we do. And also we have help desk sessions, Harare Magistrate magistrate courts, Chivu, Marondera, Murewa, as well as Beitbridge, Vilabus Magistrate Court. So in these 5 areas, we have a resident legal assistant who's there, who's ready for that help desk that I've said, to say when the civil registry, they receive a matter and in case someone is coming to report and they don't know how to go about the matter or they cannot refer them instantly, then they can just send them to help desk. When they come to the help desk, we'll see with the nature of the case. If it falls within our mandate, then we take the client to help them with the legal process until the case is finalized. If it doesn't fall within our mandate, then we refer to other stakeholders. Sometimes we refer them to Legal Aid Directorate, which is the arm of the government trying to give legal aid to the communities and all that. So this is what we basically do as well.
Yeah, a lot of strides being done in Zimbabwe to end violence against women. And there are also international strides. I mean, in 2 months' time, about 2 to 3 months' time, we're going to be celebrating the 16 days of activism against violence on women and girls. How effective has this been? I think we've been year in, year out. Yeah. Commissioner, how do you look at the 16 days of activism? Some may think, oh, maybe it's just 16 days, it must be more days, or maybe there must be other things done aside from that, as well as awareness. Do people know that 16 days of activism is there and some of the activities that are falling into that time?
Thank you. 16 days against gender-based violence is really a period of concerted activism. But actually, activism should be 365 days, if not 366 days. Every day is a day against gender-based violence. And all of us, wherever we are, even in the farms, even out there in the mines, in the mining sector, in the kumakorokoza ikoko, kunofanira they should observe 16 days of activism, but 365 days of activism against gender-based violence. But I think it is important to have such kind of a period. It's like a time to reflect what is happening, and then we move forward. Yes. So I would say that it is important, and I think to a great extent, it is effective. Continuously, year after year, I think people are gradually getting to understand what is going on. And also that is the time, I think, where statistics are also shared. So it is a good period, I think. And also we are like commemorating together with the international community, because as a country, we are also part of the regional bodies, part of SADC, part of the AU, and also part of the, of the UN system. So it is a way for us to also show solidarity about what is happening to that sector. But I just want to add something concerning I think our legal instruments. I mentioned before, then there's need to make them perhaps more friendly. Yes. But I think we also need to look at the traditional conflict resolution mechanisms out there, because the legal system is a bit far, I think, from people. So we need to also strengthen, also to use the traditional conflict resolution mechanism, which is mostly in the rural areas, because sometimes we tend to forget that there's another constituency out there which is a bit far from the legal process. And I also want to say, if you are raped, please do so. Please report within the 72 hours so that you can get the post-exposure prophylaxis, so that you are there's prevention of pregnancy and also sickness. So it is important that when you are abused, you take advantage of that. So that information needs to go out there so that our girls and women are protected. Thank you.
Unfortunately, our time is running out, but I need you to just do your final remarks. I'll start with you, Paul. What are your final remarks after this discussion? It's a long one. Yeah, we could have gone on and on and on.
Yeah, we could have had the whole day. But anyway, I think for me, we have policies, we have laws, that are speaking to these issues that we're talking about. But however, the implementation is still zero. I mean, we're still, not zero per se, but we're still very low. Yeah. The political will is just not there. I can't wait for a world that would treat GBV as a pandemic as it is, in lockdown. And everyone unites and say we're fighting this like we did with COVID. To to say let's be able. GBV is a pandemic, and we can't do with GBV. I can't wait for a world that will get to to that, where heads are put together. We are put on masks, put on whatever, everything, using all the policies and the laws that we have. But however, to my fellow men out there, I'm saying, guys, we also need to free ourselves from this space. We need to free ourselves from this toxic masculinity that we have, where we just need to be aggressive. We just need to, I mean, look, majority of even older men are dying very lonely because of some of the things that they would have done in their lifetime. So let's be able to accommodate and live together with the women in harmony. Thank you.
Marcelin, what are your final remarks?
Okay, I would like to encourage people out there to say that whenever you face violence, you have to report. And also when you're feeling like maybe going to the police cannot be that conducive and all that, we are here and we are part of the referral pathway, so we can help you. So I will leave you with our contacts. We Women in Law in Southern Africa, you can visit our offices at number 16 Lawson Avenue, Milton Park, Harare. That's our head office. And also if you are outside Harare but you still need the services of a lawyer, or you want to report a matter so that we can help you with the referral pathway, you can call on our toll-free number. When you have an Econet line, you have called your aunt and said you have insufficient balance, but with this one you can just call free of charge. The number is 08080479. I'll repeat, 08080479. So once you call on that number, directly you're speaking to a lawyer, so you'll get help there.
Nice one, Commissioner.
From the Zimbabwe Gender Commission, we're saying the commission is there for you, for men, for women, for girls and for boys, and we are there to promote gender equality and respect for one another and respect for the Constitution, because our Constitution provides for equality and respect. And if you are violated, please don't be quiet, but report. The complaints handling function is there. You can visit us on 89 Kwame Nkrumah, or you can also look us up on the social media handles.
Thank you very much to our panelists. I had with me Sibongile Mawuye. She's a Commissioner, Sibongile Mawuye, from the Zimbabwe Gender Commission, as well as Marcelin Gaipiko from Wilsa, as well as Paul Vingi from Padare. Thank you very much once again. And thank you very much to our viewers for being part of this very informative program. I am Samantha Rusare. Also remember to tune in on DSTV Zimbabwe Channel 294 for more exciting and informative shows on ZTN Prime. Thank you.